Hey, it's Mike from Mike Does It. We are experiencing a higher water bill than we've had in the last few months. And I started investigating all the toilets and everything, and I found out that this is our culprit right here. So take this top off, set it down somewhere where it won't break on the ceramic floor tile. And then if you look inside of here, please bring that by here. This float thing is not stopping the water from coming up above this tube. The water is coming over this tube and it's spilling into this. So I've got the water shut off now, but what happens is when you flush the toilet and it comes back up, I adjusted this down so that it stops the water, and it did stop it about an inch down, but then after a couple days, it was overflowing again. So the determination I've got now is that this float is bad. It's not stopping the water in time to pull that up. I got a new one and we're going to put it in. I just wanted to show you the reason that I'm putting this in is because the water is overflowing into that tube right there. So we'll be right back.
Go.
Mike Does It. We're ready to replace the fill valve that I had determined was not stopping in time to allow the water to stay underneath of the plunger. So I bought a new one, and I went with the brass shank one. They had a plastic one, but I went with this brass shank one because it was $2 more. I thought it would be better. So what we had to do was we had to take the line off back here. Down here, please. And we have to take the line off, which is this line that goes at the bottom of the fill valve and stuff like that. And then there's a nut down here that we have to take off. And I'm going to spin this nut off down here. I put this tray down here just in case some water leaks. Here's the old one, and it says to try to make the new one a similar size to the old one. So I'm going to hold this one up to it to try to make it about the same size as it. And it just kind of goes up and down on this shaft. So a couple little levels down to make it the same size. And it is approximately the same size as the other one now. And then this lock clip clips down onto it to make it stop. This is the adjustment that adjusts this when it's going up and down to make the water stop before it starts overflowing. That's where the high water bill was coming from. So we're going to put this back down in here and put the new nut on the bottom of it so that this is what makes the water thing. Now I can see that it's higher than the other one was, so I'm going to take it back out and I'm going to adjust this again so that it's not as high, because when I see it inside of here, I know that the lid's not going to fit on top of it properly. So we're going to put it down in here so that the lid would fit. Now the lid will fit on top of it here. So now I'm going to lock this back on here to make sure it's the right size as the last one. It came with this rubber seal, which I forced over the threads to put down on here to make sure that the water doesn't leak down onto the floor. So we're going to put it back down on here, and we're going to take this nut, we're going to put it on the bottom of it. Then it has a hand-tight system on it. We're going to hold this over to the side here so that none of this contraption stuff interferes with the up and down of the valve. So we're going to turn this until it gets tight, because that's where we got to prevent the water from coming out at the bottom. And I'm cranking down on it. And I'm going to take my trusty channel locks, and I'm just going to give it a snug tight, just a little bit. It's a plastic fitting, so you got to be very gentle with it to make it come onto here. It shows on there hand tight with the plastic things, but I'm just giving it a little extra snug to make sure that it doesn't leak. And then the line goes back on top of that brass fitting as they described as the better one. So I'm putting this on, and this has hand tight a system also, which goes on here. And then all I'm going to do is just take it hand tight, and then I'm just going to give it a little snug with the channel locks to make sure that it's on there properly. And so that it doesn't leak, of course. Okay, that seems like it went snug up. Now, this is what controls the water. So this adjusts that float valve to make it come up and stop. We need to stop the water before it's overflowing into this tube. And that this is an overflow tube that comes out of the side of it here. So I'm going to turn the water back on. And of course, as I turn it back on, I'm going to check to make sure that it's not leaking with this screwdriver or with this flashlight, to make sure that none of the water is going to leak out of here, because this is another possible leak problem. But I seem to have snugged it up properly, and it does not seem to be leaking at all. And I got the little tray under here to make sure that if it does, we don't. And it's filling up pretty well. And a little overflow tube is coming through here to fill the water back up into the tank. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow it to fill up to make sure that this is stopping down below this tube line, because this is where the water on the old one, causing the high water bill, was coming over, and it was overflowing into there. And there's a couple different varieties of toilets and the way that they flush. This was a high pressure flush one. They call it, they have levels of 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 flush power that they call it. And this is one of the ones. Now see, now the water is stopping way down below that. Way down below that. And that's what we needed to make sure that it didn't leak. And I did adjust the old one to do that, but it seems like it's taking on water, or it's cracked or something. So it was allowing the water to still overflow. So then I'm going to flush it to make sure that it's completing a flush cycle. And it seems like I could put more water in the tank. So I'm going to open this all the way up so that it goes all the way to the top now. And then you're going to see that this is starting to rise as the water comes in, and that shuts the water off. It stops the water from coming into the tank. And see, it stopped, and it's almost perfect, because if you look inside here, the water is only a couple inches down from the top of the tank. So 1 to 2 inches below the tank is the perfect level for that. And as you flush it and as you flush it and allow it to fill back up, it'll automatically come to the level of the tank. So this is my repair for the high water bill, because the water was constantly overflowing into this flush tank thing. So I would highly recommend keeping an eye on all your toilets if you have more than one toilet, to make sure that it's not leaking into there, because it was very costly on the water bill, and we obviously have fixed it now. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back with more videos.